morning and welcome to the show. The topic this morning is minority health concerns, and we're fortunate and privileged to have with us a medical educator, Dr. Alfred Haynes. Dr. Haynes is the former president and dean of the Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science in Los Angeles, California. And Dr. Haynes, let me welcome you to the show this morning.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be in Nashville.
Well, Dr. Haynes, we're certainly glad to have you with us. We know as we introduce you as a medical educator and that you've had tremendous influence on many medical educators that we know personally. And we'd like to talk about some of those things today. But first of all, we'd like to give our viewers some information about you from the point of view of your background, your education, and perhaps your career.
Well, I was born in Guyana, South America, and came to the United States in 1947. Went to medical school in New York at Downstate Medical Center, and subsequently worked for some years on an Indian reservation where I got very much interested in the health problems of the poor. Subsequent to that, I taught at the University of Vermont and at Johns Hopkins University in the area of international health, including being a visiting professor in India and Africa and other parts of the world. Subsequently went out to Los Angeles to assist in the development of the Drew Postgraduate Medical School. And from there I moved on to subsequently being the president, and about a year ago I retired as being the director of the Cancer Center, which position I took over after being the president of Drew.
Very good. And Dr. Haynes, you've tremendous experience in terms of medical education, and what we'd like to do, as we indicated earlier, is to talk about some of those experiences. Sure. You are familiar with the underserved in a real sense, having had an opportunity, as you indicated, to work on an Indian reservation and in India and whatnot. But let's talk about one of the major institutions that we have to deal with here in Nashville. We know that you're here for a conference, and at the same time, we also know that Meharry Medical College is very dear to you.
Oh, yes.
And let's talk about exactly your relationship with Meharry Medical College.
Well, about 1968, I began to be very much concerned about the health problems of black people in general. And at that time, I did a special study of black physicians in the United States. You will recall that at that time about 75 to 85% of all of the black physicians who were trained in the United States were trained either at Howard University or at Meharry Medical College. So Meharry has for years been an important place for the training of black physicians throughout the United States. And it is a real, as has been referred to, a national resource. And I think people in Nashville ought to be very happy that the institution is located here. We look to Meharry now as one of the leaders of those institutions who are concerned about the health of poor people. It's not merely training black doctors, but training doctors who would have a great concern for the underserved population. And I need not tell you that the health problems among African Americans is such that we need some special interest and concern in order to address those problems. So one of the reasons why I come to Nashville is because of Meharry, and because of the wonderful work which it has done over the years, and because of my close association with the person who is president of Meharry and has been president for some years. I think he's one of the finest people in the world. It's been just a pleasure to be associated with him in a number of activities. We have had among the schools, Meharry and Morehouse and Drew, a very close working relationship. We have an association called the Association of Minority Health Profession Schools, which includes Meharry, Morehouse, Drew, Xavier, Tuskegee, Florida A&M, Texas Southern, and we all work together at times to see what we can do in order to improve the health of African Americans.
Very good. Doctor, you mentioned the fact that you have been the president of the Charles R. Drew Medical Center, Medical University of University of Medicine and Science. Why don't you give us some information about that facility, because I think it's one of the more recent facilities, and it also has, I understand, a component that that is the Martin Luther King hospital there, and talk about that and who Charles Drew was.
I'm glad to do that because probably it is not as well known as the older institutions, Meharry and Howard University. But the school was an exact outgrowth of the riots which occurred in Watts in 1965. And, you know, medical care was one of the problems associated with that situation. And following that, the county decided to establish the Martin Luther King Hospital. And in order to make this hospital a teaching hospital, the Drew Postgraduate Medical School, this is what it was called at that time, was formed just about the same time. And it was named in honor of a prominent black surgeon, Dr. Charles Drew. Dr. Drew, interestingly enough, graduated from a high school in Washington, D.C., went to Amherst College, applied to Howard University and was not accepted because he didn't have enough credits in English, went to McGill University, studied medicine, and at a time when the Howard University was trying to establish their departments with black chairmen, he was given an opportunity to study to become the chairman of surgery at Howard University, and went to Columbia University. But because of his expertise in blood, he spent much of his time doing research in blood. And when the war broke out, talking now about World War II, you know, one of the major problems in war was that soldiers would die for lack of blood. And the challenge was to find a mechanism to preserve blood so that the lives of the soldiers could be saved. And he was considered at that time to be the most prominent person in the world and was given the responsibility to develop the technique. And as a result of that, he developed the technique for the preservation of blood for France. But before this happened, France fell. So it became a Blood for Britain campaign. And when the United States entered the war, the technique for preserving blood had all been established by him. And we were able to go right into the situation. So we are very proud of the work which he did. And many people who do not realize it, many lives were saved as a result of the work which Dr. Charles Drew did. Now, he died himself in 1950 in an automobile accident while driving from Howard to Tuskegee.
I think that's one of the